channel. My name is Jessica McDonald. I'm a knitting pattern designer and I'm coming to you from a tiny town in the mountains of Idaho. Today is February the 3rd and I have to share with you a finished object, a sweater I'm about to rip out, and some new yarn that I have some really exciting plans for. So we'll jump into that. First of all, if you were looking for my patterns, you can find them on Ravelry or my website. The links to that are in the description box down below this video. There's also a link there for you to sign up for my newsletter. Please sign up for my newsletter if you like my designs. It's the best place to be. You get an email when I release a new pattern and you get an exclusive discount. And as often as I am able, I like to send out educational emails on topics that people have expressed interest in learning more about. So let's just dive in, shall we? So you can see I am wearing my Winter Woods pullover. If you are a returning viewer, you will have seen it grow over the last 2 or 3 episodes. I don't remember if this is the 3rd episode that this sweater is in or if it's the 4th one. But here it is finally done in all of its glory. So today is the 3rd. The pattern is coming out on the 6th, which is Monday, February 6th, 2023, if you were watching this way in the future. If you were watching this episode before February 6th and you like this pattern, sign up for my newsletter. If you were watching this after February 6th, I will put a link to the pattern in the description box down below. So this is Winter Woods. Isn't it glorious? This giant star is just like the feature of it. I really love this star and I used it in my Lumi hat pattern. I don't have the hat with me, it's downstairs in the mudroom, but I used it in the Lumi hat pattern and it's a 20 stitch repeat, so it's quite large, but I really loved it and I wanted to use it in a sweater, so I'm excited that I did that. So you can see just this big star. It looks amazing, doesn't it? Just the absolute star of this yoke. Excuse me. So this is called Winter Woods. You can see that it starts with some little pine boughs and then it comes here to these gentle little snowflakes. When I was designing the yoke, I saw these as little tiny snowflakes, but then as I was knitting it, all I can see is little kitty cat footprints in the snow. So you can see it looks just like kitty footprints in the snow, and then you come to the big star here, and then the yoke splits right under the star, and this little bit of snow down here, and it's on the sleeves as well. This kind of drifts down from the big star to blend the color work down into the yoke so you don't have an abrupt ending right after this star. And there it is. Oh, punched my box of new yarn. So it's called Winter Woods. Isn't it beautiful? I was originally planning to fold this collar down, which if you've watched previous episodes, you'll have heard me talk about it. I was going to fold it down and sew it in place, but so many people loved it, like watching the progress as I knit it on Instagram. So many people loved this really long ribbing that I thought, oh well, I'll just take some pictures with it like this so that people can see what it looks like without the collar folded down, and then I'll fold down the collar and take more pictures. But I just fell in love with the way it looks with the collar left up. So it's a little mock neck. It comes up your neck a little ways. It doesn't fit super tight. I don't know if you can see how tight it fits, but it doesn't fit super tight. It just kind of comes up a little bit and it's really cozy around the neck. And I just really fell in love with the way it looked and the way it felt. So I left it. So if you want, you can fold the collar down and sew it down and it will look about like this. That's what it'll look like folded down. I think I got it halfway. That's what it'll look folded down, or you can just leave it like this and it will look like this. This is how I've decided to leave it. At first I thought that I might find it a little bit irritating to have this tall ribbing against my neck right here, but it really isn't bothersome for me. This yarn is a little bit rustic, but it's not very prickly at all, but it's a tiny bit rustic. It's not like baby soft, but it's not really. Softness is such a relative term. Like some people think Plotulopi is soft, but I've touched a sweater made in Plotulopi and that's a bit much for me. well, not Letlopi. Yeah, Letlopi, the spun. Plotulopi is the unspun version. But I've touched it in Letlopi and I'm like, that's some serious rustic fabric. This is nowhere near that. But some people love Letlopi and they consider it to be soft. So softness is such an ambiguous relative term that it's hard to describe how a yarn feels if you can't actually touch it. So I'll try to describe it. It's really lightweight and lofty. It's really fluffy. It has a little bit of hairiness to it. There's a little bit of the fibers that stick up, but it's not a lot. And they tend to just kind of bubble over. They're not like poking out. They're just kind of like bent over and then go back down in the fabric. So it's got a really soft, a little bit blurred look to it because it kind of relaxes and fluffs up when you block it, but it's not very prickly. It is a tiny, tiny bit, but it's not bad. Like when I first put the sweater on, I can sense it here in my neck, but after I've worn it for a few minutes, I don't notice it anymore. The thing that I can't wear are yarns that have a really strong halo, like the hairs stick out and they just keep sticking out. Like alpaca I cannot wear, and mohair I cannot wear because all of that halo, all of that fluff is really irritating to my skin. It just drives me insane to wear. So you might say mohair is really soft and doesn't cause you any irritation, but for me it is ridiculously irritating and I just cannot wear it. So it is a rustic yarn, but it is not super rustic. It doesn't have a harsh feel to it. It has a soft feel to it, but if you're very sensitive to even a tiny bit of prickle, you might find it irritating. My neck and my chest right here are the most sensitive parts of my body, and they have this fabric against it, and they're fine. Like, yeah, it's fine. Like when you press on it and you shove the prickles into your skin, that's when it's the worst, but it's okay. It's fine for me. If you are accustomed to knitting with superwash yarns or really super duper soft merinos, and that's generally what you work with, the texture of this fabric might feel really abrasive to you. But if you're accustomed to working with non-superwash yarns and something that's a little more rustic, you're gonna find this to be quite soft, I think. It's really hard to describe how the fabric feels without actually letting you touch it and see it for yourself. So let's talk about the yarn now that I've told you all about the softness. So this is knit in Wool Dreamers Manchelopi. So this is an unspun yarn. Here are some leftover cakes of it. Can you see? The brown is kind of disappearing into the background here. So this is the main color that I use. These are both natural colors. I forget the names of the colors off of the top of my head, but they're in the pattern. So if this is later after the pattern page has been published, you can click on the link and head over to Ravelry or my website and you can read the color names. When I got this yarn, they didn't have very many colors, but they now have quite a few colors in this Manchelopi. There you go, you can see it. It is an unspun yarn. On their website, they say that 2 strands is equivalent to a DK weight, but I did not agree with that. So this is spun into a plate, and you have 2 strands. It comes as two strands. You can see here, there's 2 strands just in one strand, I guess. If you wanted to knit it singly, it says it's a fingering weight, which I would believe that would knit down to a fingering weight gauge, but you would have to separate these through the whole plate and wind them into separate balls, which would be, I think, really tedious and difficult. So I don't plan to do that ever at any point in time. I just took 1 plate and knit with 2 strands, and when I did my initial swatch, I treated it like I would a DK weight yarn, a DK weight yarn. I generally knit on a size 6 needle, but it was too big. Like even knit on a size 6 needle, the fabric seemed too dense for my liking, and the gauge was too big for a true DK weight yarn. So I knit it on a size 7, which is the size that I like to use for worsted weight yarns, and it was perfect. So I don't agree that this is called a DK weight. I think that a worsted weight would be a more accurate description of it. So here it is. This is not the plain white color I chose. This natural brown and this natural very, very light oatmeal, so that I would have a gentle contrast. Because if I'd gone with white, it would have been a really stark contrast, but going with this light oatmeal color and the dark brown gives it a really soft effect, and paired with the softness of the fabric when you block it, I think it looks really nice in this color combination. I just really like this combination. I'm planning to, immediately after I'm done filming this podcast, I'm planning to film another video on knitting with unspun yarn, and I'm also planning to write a blog post on knitting with unspun yarn. So I will do my best to put links to those two down in the description box, where I will talk even more in depth about knitting with unspun yarn. So I'll save all my unspun yarn talk for that video. But if you don't want to use unspun yarn, you can use just a normal worsted weight yarn, just whatever yarn you want. If you want a really soft look to the fabric, kind of like unspun, like the closest look to unspun, the closest finished look to unspun, go with a woolen spun yarn, but you can also use a worsted spun yarn. Those are fine. And someday I'm going to write an email on the differences between woolen spun and worsted spun, but I haven't had the time to do that yet. Someday it'll happen. So yeah, here's Winter Woods. The sleeves shrank a little bit with blocking. I had them down to here, and then they shrank a little bit when I blocked the sweater. I should have knit it another inch, or maybe even just half an inch longer, but oh well. Like, to take this out, like there's no undoing the bind off and ripping it back. It would break horribly, and there's just no, I'm just gonna live with it like this. I'll tug it down every once in a while, and yeah, but I should have knit them a little tiny bit longer. I'm wearing it over top of a linen dress today, which it makes me really happy. I love to wear my linen dresses. I'll just put leggings on underneath them, wool socks and wool slippers and leggings, and then one of my linen dresses and a sweater over top. But the trouble is that I tend to buy everything in a color, and most usually it's green. Like the dress I'm wearing today is green. The yarn I'm going to show you is green. My favorite color is green. So I have a lot of green things. I have a lot of green sweaters. I have a lot of green dresses, but they're not the same shade. So I can't wear them together. It just doesn't look right. And I don't have enough neutral colored sweaters to go with my green dresses, or neutral colored dresses to go with my green sweaters. So I've kind of got a problem in my wardrobe where I can't wear the outfits I want to wear as often as I want to wear them. So I'll have sweaters that I basically just wear with jeans, and I'll have some sweaters that I can wear with my dresses, but there's not a lot of overlap right now. So this sweater actually is perfect because it is a neutral color, the browns, and so I can wear it with my green linen dress, and it doesn't clash or look weird because they're different shades of green, and I can also wear it with my jeans. So this is perfect, a perfect wardrobe addition for me. I'm gonna stand up so you can see my outfit. Move my chair over. Hopefully the focus doesn't get messed up. Oh, maybe I'm a little too tall. Can you see, like, is it focused right? I don't know that it is. Maybe if I go down and it sees my face, it will focus. This feels really weird. I'm sorry to subject you to this really awkward few minutes of podcasting. That may have been too weird. But anyway, this is a really cute outfit that I like. I asked my husband what he thought of it, and he said it looked good except for the leggings. He really hates when I wear black leggings with my dresses, and I'm like, I'm not gonna freeze to death, so. It is something that people do. Okay, so that is Winter Woods. The pattern is coming out on the 6th of February. Sign up for my newsletter, or the links to the pattern will be in the description box below. You can use just plain old ordinary worsted spun yarn, or not worsted spun, worsted weight yarn, either worsted spun or woolen spun, or you can use any unspun yarn that knits up at a worsted weight gauge. Some of my test knitters used Plotulopi, I think that's how it's said, Plotulopi, the Icelandic unspun that everybody's excited about, and it turned out perfect. There's also some other unspun yarns. Woolen Twine has one, I think it's called Thrive. Woolen Twine, I should put links to that. And there's also another little yarn company called Raincloud and Sage. Yes, I think it's Raincloud and Sage. And they have an unspun yarn base as well. I'll put links to these down below so that you can go find them. And of course there's Wool Dreamers Manchelopi, which is an unspun yarn. So there are quite a few options for unspun yarn these days. Oh, there's also Honorocare. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. I'll try to put links to all of the unspun yarns I know about in the description box below, so if you do want to knit with unspun, there will be links there and you can go shop through them all and decide which one is right for you. And now, that's Winter Woods. Oh, just so you know, the short rows are up here. I had a lot of people concerned about my fletching where the short rows were because they really wanted the short rows in the neck. So just so you know, if you want the short rows, they're up here, right under the neckline before you start the color work. So there's that one. Now I'm going to show you the sweater that I'm about to rip out. A very long time ago, my husband asked for a sweater. I think it's been about 2 years now that he's asked for this sweater. And I bought the yarn about 2 years ago, and it sat and waited its turn. And about a year ago, I figured out what I was going to do with it and did all the swatching and all that. And then I got busy with Forest, my book Forest that I published this last fall. And so his sweater went on the back burner. And now, finally, I'm working on it. However, I'm gonna rip it all out. I'll tell you why in a minute. It's there's nothing wrong with the design or the pattern itself. I did something dumb, is why. So this is my husband's sweater. You can't see it very well because it's all scrunched up on the needle. This is my 32-inch circumference, my 32-inch long needle, and I need a longer one. But my 40-inch needle grew legs and wandered off. I ordered more longer ones that should come today, but you'll just have to see it like this. So this is all over cabled, top down, raglan, all over cabled. You can see I'm trying to stretch the cable panel out so you can see it because it scrunches up on the needle really, really tightly. So if I turn it sideways to the window, you can see it better. So there's the cables. It's cabled on the back as well. So it's got one big cable motif down the center, and then there's two smaller cables at the side, and then we'll go into this textured stitch. The sleeve, this is the sleeve section. It's got one repeat of the large cable motif, and then one smaller cable on each side. I'm really, really pleased with this. I love how textural this cable, this center panel, this center cable is really textural, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm really enjoying knitting it. When I was writing the pattern, I was thinking, oh, this is a lot harder than I usually make patterns, so I don't know if people will like it or not, because a lot of people like to come to me for really clear, simple patterns. They don't come to me for something complicated. But as I've been knitting it, I don't find it to be very complicated. Of course, I'm the person who wrote it, so I'm very intimately acquainted with everything about it. So it's different for me knitting my own pattern because I know everything about it versus you coming into it knowing nothing about it and just picking it up and knitting it. but I think it'll be okay. So yeah, it's just top down raglan. It's got neckline shaping done. I'll pick up for the neckline after the yoke is done. Make sure it fits right. So this is about 80% of the size 40 yoke. This would fit me quite nicely, except my husband needs the size 50. So I just went on autopilot and chose my size to cast on for and have been knitting my size. And he needs a 3 sizes bigger than this. So that is why it's getting ripped out. I feel so dumb. I started this last weekend and I knit on it like half the day Saturday and half the day Sunday, and I made so much progress and I was knitting on it all week. And then I was like looking at my pattern one evening and I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This will not fit my husband at all. I don't even know if he could get it on. But anyway, this is going to be ripped out because I cast on my size instead of his size. So as I was working on it last weekend, he was looking at it and he was like, that looks a little bit small for me. Are you sure it will fit? And I was like, yeah, it'll fit you. It'll fit you. Yeah, it's gonna fit you. He was right. I should have listened. It's not going to fit him at all. Yeah, so this is my husband's sweater. It is about to be ripped out. And I'll start over again. At least I have practice knitting it, so it's not like I have to like remember what the cables do. I can just pick it up and go. I am a little bit worried about the amount of yarn I have. So I bought this yarn 2 years ago and I bought 13 skeins of it, and I thought that was an absurd amount of yarn to be buying for a sweater. And now, so this is the second skein here. This is 80% of 3 sizes too small yoke, and I'm almost done with the second skein, so maybe I'm gonna have problems with yarn. There are 134 yards per skein. I don't know. I bought this 2 years ago, so there's no way I'm getting the same color lot if I go buy it now. But it's also, it's not in stock right now, so I'd have to like hunt for it to find it. So I really hope 13 skeins is gonna be enough for a size 50 all over cabled man sweater. I mean, it's gonna have to have long arms and long body and everything. I'm a bit worried about this. I'm a bit worried about the yarn. So we'll see if I make it or not. This is Quince & Co. Lark. It is the color Audouin. I'm never quite sure how to say the name of the color, but it's the light oatmeal color. Light beigey oatmeal color. It's a little bit heathered. My husband is very sensitive. He's one of those people who's very sensitive to prickles. So this fabric that I'm wearing now, he would never be able to wear. He wanted something baby soft, and Quince & Co. Lark is always baby soft. It's one of the softest yarns that I've ever worked with. That's not a merino. It's not a merino. Grown, spun, and dyed in the USA. 100% American wool, but I don't know what breed or blend of breeds goes into this yarn. It doesn't say it's merino, so I don't think it is merino, but it might have some in it. I'm just not sure what breeds are in this yarn, but it is extremely soft. It is extremely long lasting as well. This was the first non-superwash wool yarn that I ever knit with. So I kind of like, my journey with yarn was I used to just go to Joann's and buy acrylic yarns, and then I found hand-dyed superwash yarns, and then I found out about non-superwash yarns, and Quince & Co. Lark was my very first non-superwash yarn that I ever worked with. So I've knit with it quite a lot, and it's always really nice. It's always really nice. I've used it for color work and for textures, It is a worsted spun yarn, which makes it perfect for textures, which also works really well on color work. So you can see it has really nice stitch definition. The cables are really plump and squishy, and it's going to be really nice and soft for my husband, but it's also going to last a long time. One downside to this yarn is it does pill, so I'm going to have to shave it, like just take a sweater shaver to my husband's sweater every now and again, but it does eventually stop pilling. So it pills for a while and then it stops and it's over with. But if you're looking for something soft that's going to last for a really long time, that is 100% American made, Quincy Lark is a great one to go with. So I was actually telling my husband that I would love a sweater like this. Like, I would wear the dickens out of this sweater. Like, I would wear it so much. Like, if I knit it in like a really close fitting size and cropped it, I could wear it over all of my dresses and it would look amazing. And then at that point he was like, well, then just knit it for yourself and don't knit me a sweater. And I was like, well, that's not the point. Like, maybe we'll have matching sweaters someday, because I would wear the dickens out of this thing. Anyway, I don't know if you've been hearing the jingling, but I bought myself some pretty stitch markers recently, which these are my first like pretty stitch markers. Usually I just use the bulb stitch markers that you can open and close, but I bought pretty ones. And they've just been jingling away on here. So you probably can't see them at all. So AD Knits, I'm not sure what I think it's just AD Knits. She sells stickers and like fun labels for your knitting. She also sold stitch markers, but then she decided to get out of stitch markers. So she was doing a clearance on all of her stitch markers, and I decided to buy a mystery tin of them because they're pretty. So I've got a couple pine cones, and I've got, here's a leaf, here's a little garden trowel, here's a carrot, this is a mountain medallion here, a Christmas tree, and another leaf. So it's a fun combination of stitch markers that now I have pretty stitch markers on my knitting for the first time ever. So this is going to get ripped out, and I'm going to cast on for the proper size this time, and next time I go to knit something, I'm going to double check that I have the right size, because this was actually quite a lot of work. This is probably 15 hours of knitting in this at this point. Maybe a little less than 15. More than 10, definitely more than 10. So let's say 10 to 15. So it's quite a lot of knitting time that is now down the toilet because I cast on the wrong size. Go me! So I'm gonna rip this out. Basically as soon as I'm done filming my videos, and then I'll start over and do it right. So there is my current whip. I'm also still working on the socks. I haven't made much progress on them. I'll just show you. I'm done with the color work on the second sock. I'm mid-row. I'm almost down to the heel. So there's the Fletching Socks are still a whip, but I'll just quickly show them to you because I talked about this at length in the last episode, and I don't want to bore you with the details too much, as my whips take forever to get done. But yeah, these are the Fletching Socks. The pattern will come out sometime this spring, but you can see I'm almost to the heel on the second sock. So, but it hasn't gotten done yet because I was knitting so much on the sweater since last weekend. There's that. Now I'm going to show you my new yard. So my favorite color is green. Let's just start there. And my favorite color combination is green and gray. So I have an idea for a colorwork sweater that is inspired by evergreen wreaths and pine boughs and all that stuff. I'm not going to tell you too much about it because I'm going to keep some secrets since it's not going to come out until next fall sometime. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm planning all of my releases for next fall, but I don't have like set times. Like this one's coming out in September, this one's coming out in October. I'm just like, are all coming out next fall, and I'll pick when they're coming out as we get closer and see which one's done first. So this is Biche et Bouche lamb's wool, le lamb's wool. Can you see oh, that's the back of it. Le lamb's wool. There's the focus back on my face. This is the color dark green gray. I'll read this tag to you. This is a pure lamb's wool from Scotland from a family-owned fibre mill, a beautiful, natural and scoured quality for your dreamy knitting projects. With love, Astrid, Caroline and Louise. So, this is, it's a bit heathered and it's not super smoothly spun. Let's just focus on the yarn for a minute so you can see it. So you can see there's a bit of yellow or maybe light green yellow-ish tone in with it. So it's not just a solid color, there's some nice dimension and depth of color in it. And then here is the gray. It is a heathered gray. It is the light gray. What's the shade? Light gray. So there's multiple different shades of gray. I went with light gray. It's a lovely heathered color. I just really love heathered colors. Like, I just really like the depth and the dimension that they have. Here's the label if you want to see that. So these two together are going to be a sweater. This green looks like it's disappearing into the background to me when I look at my camera screen. So hopefully it's showing up nicely for you. The green is going to be the main color and the gray is going to be the contrast color. So I'm very excited about this. It is a light worsted heavy DK weight. It says to use a US size 6 4mm or a US size 6 needle. I'm planning to swatch it on both a size 6 and a size 7 and see which one I prefer. Yeah, it does look like a pretty normal DK weight, but where they said, or people have said that it could be, oh here's on the label, light worsted. It's woolen spun. How did I not know that? So you can use it on a US size 6 or a US size 7 needle. So I'm probably gonna knit it a swatch on both 6s and 7s and see which fabric I like better. And then go with that. So here it is. It's beautiful. I've got a ton in here because I am going to make not just a sweater for myself, but one thing that I'd really like to do starting this fall, look at all this yarn, look at all that. One thing I'd really like to do starting this fall is every time I release a adult sized pattern, I want to also release a child sized version of it, because a lot of people love my kid patterns, and I actually haven't published a kid pattern since I published Woodland Ramble in the fall of 2021. So it's been quite a long time since I've published any kid patterns, and I'd really like to just do the adult pattern and the kid pattern at the same time. So this yarn is, I'm going to knit a sweater for myself, and then I'm also going to knit a sweater for my oldest daughter that matches my sweater, and we'll have matching sweaters, which will be fun. And she'll get a new sweater because my kids do wear their sweaters. She'll get a new sweater for fall of 2023, and then it can get handed down through everybody. So yeah, so that's one thing that I really want to do. This sweater here is going to have I guess mommy and me matching. The summer tee that I'm planning to start working on as soon as the yarn comes is not going to be mommy and me matching, because I don't think there's enough time for me to do mommy and me match, like a kid's version of it as well, since I'm planning to release it in May or June, because that's 3 to 4 months away. That's coming up pretty quick. So this is something that I'm just gonna have to push out a little bit further so I have a little more time. But then I also have yarn coming for a cabled cardigan for myself, and I'm going to make a kids version of that one as well. So yes, planning a lot of really fun stuff. Yeah, a lot of really fun stuff. So that is everything I have to share for you for today. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter. If you liked my video, please subscribe to my channel and like my video. That helps my channel out a lot, lets me reach more people. And if you like this sweater, go sign up for my newsletter, or you can purchase it at the links down below. And that is all I have for today's podcast episode. So until next time, happy knitting. Bye.